Welcome to the Saturday in Athens podcast. I am your host, Seth Saunders. It is the greatest week of the year. It is cocktail party week. And because it is the greatest week of the year, we had to get an extra special guest. And we are delighted to have back on the show, host of SEC Nation and NFL Live, Laura Rutledge. Laura, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. I love doing this show. And you're right, this is the greatest week of the year. So happy to spend some time with you guys.
So it is perfect timing that you're on this week because I am excited to get your opinion on this. Obviously, big news coming out yesterday that due to the stadium renovations going on in Jacksonville in 26 and 27, the Brain Trust has decided that the game will stay at neutral sites. In 26, it'll be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and then in 27 at Raymond James in Tampa. And I'm interested to get your take because based on what I was seeing all over social yesterday, this seems to be much more of a hot button topic than it is for me personally. I love the neutral site, but folks seem to be a little perturbed about it. You got the chance this year to cover Red River Shootout in person, which that's another neutral site. There's only 3 across college football: Red River Shootout, Cocktail Party, and then Army Navy. What are your thoughts on the cocktail party staying in Jacksonville and being a neutral field affair?
Yeah, I think some people had got it in their heads that, it wasn't going to remain a neutral site game. And people got excited about thinking about, the prospect of having it on campuses. And, obviously that would be fun. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it wouldn't be, but I'm with you. I kind of like the neutral site feel to it. I will say, as somebody who has loved this game for years, has been to it so many times, I can't imagine it not in Jacksonville. Like, it's just going to feel weird, even those couple times when we're in Atlanta and then in Tampa. So for me, even just thinking about it not being a Jacksonville thing feels a little bit weird. And, we've said this many times on SEC Nation. Tim Tebow's been very much for keeping it in Jacksonville. He's obviously a Jacksonville guy, but I do think when you look at traditions that we're trying to hold on to in this era of college football, where everything's changing and there's been so many different things, it does feel like an important tradition to hold on to when it comes to these rivalry games. So for those reasons, I would say I like that it's staying neutral site, and it is going to feel really bizarre when it's not in Jacksonville just those couple of years.
Admittedly, I am very romantic about college football. And for me,
Same.
yeah, there's just something about the legacy of it being there. I don't want Red River Shootout played anywhere but the original Cotton Bowl, and like I don't want those things to change as a fan. This isn't even as a Georgia, Florida thing. This is just as a college football purist. I don't want that to change. I do feel like the sport has changed so much, especially in the last decade. And I would love to hold on to things like that. I certainly get, I guess, the argument of having it on campus and recruiting and all those things. But I don't know. For me, it just seems like some of the je ne sais quoi of those two schools is that they have that, right? And so, man, it would bother me. And speaking of Jacksonville, y'all will be on the banks of the St. Johns this weekend with SEC Nation. How excited are you to get to be a part of that game and a part of that event in the lead up to kickoff?
Yeah, it's so special. I mean, I don't think that Nation has missed a year of being at this game, which is really cool. It's kind of like part of our identity that we always go to this game, and it's been so special. I mean, the turnout is incredible on both sides. We get so many Georgia fans, so many Florida fans, and I've just loved the personality of our show in this game and in the lead up to this game. We always do, special things for it. We've got some great things planned this week. We're actually going to have Kirby Smart joining the show via Zoom, which is fine. We're just glad to get him on the show.
Yeah,
I get it. These guys can't get over there and get through all the crowds and everything there, RV land and all that jazz. So we just we get so excited about being there, and we can't wait to interact with everyone. This game, and even on like the Friday in the day before, so like tomorrow, it's so fun. Like, people are rolling around in those souped up golf cart things. You know what I'm talking about, with like the big tires?
Absolutely.
And it is just hilarious. Like, you never know what's coming your way, what's going to happen. So I love being there. And it was really important to us for our show to be there. This is also really cool because for the first time, this is a ABC game,
Mhm.
and it's going to be really special to have that, for the first time for all of us that have been on SEC Network for all these years. Like, this is now, we now have the rights to this game, and that means a lot to us. So Chris Fowler obviously will call the game with Kirk Herbstreit. Chris Fowler is going to be on SEC Nation, just talking through all of it, and we can't wait. It's such a blast to be there. Such a gift to be able to do this.
It seems to us that Kirby Paul Smart has a certain zeal for this game, shall we say?
Ooh,
I would love to
good
get
word.
your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's funny because you're right. He seemingly just brings a little extra for this one. Like,
Mhm.
his hatred for Florida, being a Georgia guy and a guy who played for the Bulldogs, I think runs so deep. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this year he's had a little extra zeal to him.
Mhm.
He's felt that, chip on his shoulder. I think that's real. I don't think he's putting on some act for his team or anything. Like, I think he legitimately feels that way. And, you saw how he was after beating Texas, and I love it. I'm like, this is great. This is like vintage Kirby, and he's kind of leaning into that. So I feel like that will be ratcheted up even more this week. And he's not going to have any problem, referencing times when this game has been super close, despite
Mhm.
maybe a seeming mismatch going into the game, or, crazy things have happened. Like, he knows this rivalry so well. He has so many, I'm sure, of his own examples that he can point to. And I think he's going to have those boys ready to go. I mean, the same would be said on the Florida side too, right? Like, the message there will be, DJ Lagway and what he can bring to the table, and can they play spoiler, for Georgia? And that's a real thing, right? That motivates players. Motivation is, I think, so key in every game, but especially in rivalry games. And so I imagine on both sides they'll lean into that a lot. But yeah, Kirby, something about this game makes him extra spicy, which we love.
Yeah, I do think some of his, what makes him unique is he still brings, I think, the passion that he likely had as a player
Yeah.
to the sideline as a coach. And I think that becomes part of the personality of his team. And I feel like for him being involved as long as he has now, what I guess this is year 9 now, for him to
Wow.
still have that, I think is important. And I do think they feed off that, especially in a year. And I would love to get your take on this, but it's been my feeling that Georgia thus far, and I could be misreading this, but is missing an emotional leader in that locker
Yeah.
room. And I
Interesting.
wonder if he has sensed that and tried to fill that void and say, okay, look, you guys are leading by example, and that's all great, but we need somebody to light the fire. And if it needs to be me, it'll be me. I mean, I don't think he makes mistakes in communication. And I
Yeah.
thought his post-game interview after the Texas game was very carefully crafted from this is the narrative that we're pushing, and this is the attitude that we want to take. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's well said, and very well observed by you. I was on the sideline for the Alabama Georgia game, and I was on Alabama's side, but certainly, watching a ton of what Georgia was doing, and I did notice that they were certainly, as we all saw, like, shell shocked in that first half, and they made the massive comeback, which was so impressive. And it felt like that was fueled by Kirby, even that
Mm-hmm.
comeback. It felt to me like, and we'll see how this season ends up, but let's say they go on a championship run. I think we'll all look back to that game and that comeback in that game as a true turning point for them, which again, that spark, that fire was lit by Kirby, and whatever was said at halftime and even on the sidelines. I mean, he never stopped coaching. He never
Mm-hmm.
stopped going at them and trying to get the most out of them, and that pride, that he coaches with, that also translates to how they play. And this, but we've heard this for a couple years now with Carson Beck being at the helm, that they've asked for a little more out of him. They've asked for a
Yeah.
little bit more leadership, right? And it's not his natural instinct. And I think that's really key. Like, sometimes I feel like we, as the general we that like hasn't played college football at this level or anything like that, we're like, oh, come on, like, just be a rah-rah guy, why can't you do that? And it like really doesn't come naturally to some of these guys. That's even true at the NFL level. There's so many of these players that I cover at the NFL level that aren't that, right? And
Yeah.
you have to find the leadership in other ways. And I think you're very right that they don't have this like energy giver type leaders. Stetson Bennett was that in a lot of ways. I mean, that's kind of who he was and who he was for this team. They also had so many on those Georgia teams, so many defensive leaders. I mean, you would be on the sideline and you'd be like, oh my God, like I want to get out there and play. Like just watching the way that they motivated each other. And this group is different, but I do think that they are built in Kirby's image in a lot of ways. They're feisty, you know, they're scrappy and they're uber talented, right? But that's very real. I'll be interested to see, you know, just the continuation of Carson Beck's development in that way and how that at times may translate, because I think this is a team that very well could be the national champion when it's all said and done. They should be favored to be that, right? And they've got a long road ahead of them, you know, to get to that point.
Well, some of the teams that may be in their way on that road, Laura, are ones I don't think any of us anticipated when things kicked off in late August. I think we're all probably guilty of thinking we have things figured out, but I don't know that anybody had undefeated Pitt, undefeated BYU, undefeated Indiana, undefeated Iowa State, and undefeated Army on their college football bingo card this year.
Wild.
It's been crazy. And so I am interested to see, like, from your vantage point, how exciting has it been this season to kind of watch the just, I guess, topsy-turvy nature of the season thus far? Like we have said that this season thus far has just been the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, it's been incredible. And so what have been the highlights for you thus far?
Yeah, I think the main highlight, which kind of speaks to a lot of what the season has been, is just the parity right now. It starts in the SEC, right? I mean, the SEC, you worry a little bit about some of the cannibalization within the conference because there's so many good teams. So we're seeing that play out for sure. I think that's been a highlight for me, just because you hoped that in this 12-team playoff in the first year of it, that we would see a lot of teams have an opportunity, and we do. I mean, those teams that you just named off, I'm thinking, okay, so some of them are going to get in, and it's going to be a real opportunity for them to show, like, yeah, we're legit. Whatever you think about us with, you know, strength of record and who we've played and all of that, you know, put us up against some of these big bad SEC teams and see what we bring. And then on the flip side of that, you know, these SEC teams, maybe there's some that, I don't know, we could see 3-loss teams sneak in. Who knows? Like this is going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. They're going to be like, all right, you know, you think you're all undefeated over here. Like, let's show you what's up. This is what we've been going up against, this gauntlet that is the Southeastern Conference. And so to me, that's been fascinating. I mean, I think too, just, you know, seeing some of these great performances that we've seen in these big moments. I would even reference Carson Beck and his comeback against Alabama. It doesn't end up being a win, but what a moment for him, like where you're saying, oh my God, how is he doing this? And the offense didn't look that good against Texas at times, but just the performance overall for Georgia against Texas on the road, incredible. You know, I did the Red River game right before that, and seeing Texas's performance against Oklahoma was a highlight for me. Just, you know, a rivalry game, and they were the better team. Everybody knows that, but you still got to show up. Vandy beating Alabama, none of us are ever going to forget that. And it's a very sore subject amongst Alabama fans, but think about Vanderbilt. They're a highlight for me as well. They should have a couple more wins, maybe even on their record with just some things that unfortunately slipped away from them in some of those games. So that's been really, really cool. I would throw another one out there, and I guess I'm a little SEC heavy here, but Arkansas has been fun. I know you wish they would have a little bit more to show for it win-wise, but they're a team that nobody wants to deal with. Taylor Green, when he's been healthy, has been great to watch. And I give a ton of credit to Sam Pittman with kind of his back against the wall. He says, yeah, I'm going to hire somebody who used to coach here as a head coach to come in and call plays and be my offensive coordinator. I mean, it takes a special kind of lack of ego and awareness to be able to approach it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, Sam Pittman, just one of the great characters in college football, just so easy to root for. And so I've been thrilled that they've had success. But to your point, I hadn't really thought about that. But I think from a global perspective, for him to kind of look outside and evaluate and say, hey, look, Bobby Petrino is the guy that can help us fix it. And I don't care about any of the past stuff. Like, I'll put my ego aside and have him come in. And if he can help, he helps. So yeah, that's a really insightful point, I think. This season, I have been enamored with Indiana and with Army. just because obviously these are not schools that we're usually seeing undefeated this late in the season. Indiana, look, I don't mean this sideways at all, but it's a basketball school, okay? And for them to be doing what they're doing, for Kurt Signetti to do what he's doing, given his story and the path that he's kind of blazed to get there, I think especially with the flag that he planted in December, kind of essentially saying, hey, look, I'm so sick of all you guys not thinking we can do this in Indiana.
Right.
This is what I do. Google it. Like, like the gumption to do that and then to deliver on it, I think is just one of the awesome stories. And for one of the service academies, and let's put Navy in this conversation too. Last Saturday's result notwithstanding, because obviously they kind of run into a buzzsaw. They have so many turnovers, and it is what it is. But to have both those academies kind of on a national stage, I think has been beautiful to watch.
It's really cool. How much fun, oh my goodness, if Army ends up getting it. Like, can you imagine?
Awesome.
Not a great matchup for anybody, by the way. So that'll be interesting to see, how it would play out. And yeah, to your point about Indiana and Signetti, like those are the stories that we love in college football. And I'm thrilled that because of, I think it's a combo, right? Like you see these teams that are having success. You're like, oh, it's a transfer portal, NIL, all that. Like that's a piece of it, yes. But you have to be able to coach these teams. These players have to perform at these high levels. Like that's so hard to do. I mean, look at a team like Alabama that, has all sorts of talent, but they're still dealing with how do they put it all together? How do they coach it up? They're going up against better competition. I realize that than in Indiana, but it's just so hard to get, I think, everybody on the same page these days to win these games and to be prepared at the level that they've been prepared at. And so to me, like you're right, Indiana might be one of the best stories in all of college football, and to call your shot and then have it play out. Like, I don't care what happens the rest of the season. He's already been verified there. Like he's been totally, everybody knows like, okay, that was right. That happened. Good for him. So I love it. I do think too, like players buy into that. They see they see that confidence. They're like, oh, we got to back coach up. So really, really cool. It was fun to see game day there. And then like, they also delivered after that. Sometimes, a spotlight gets on a school like this. And then it's like, they kind of don't live up to the hype and they did. So really, really special last week.
Laura, I want to close with you with an NFL Live question, mainly because it was my favorite thing that I've seen on the internet this week. And so I want to get your full take on it. But I need to get the firsthand account of SEC Nation alum and one of our all-time favorite personalities, Marcus Spears, B&B, big man ballin', just dropping a 54-yard dime on the spot. I mean, it was incredible TV.
Like, Seth, I have watched this clip, I don't know, 50 times. Like, because I've seen it, not only have we just rewatched it on the show, but like I've seen it online. I am still amazed and I laugh just as hard every single time. And like everyone kind of like saw the whole thing play out real time, but this was all just happening completely off the cuff. Like it started out with the Jaden Daniels Hail Mary. So we're talking about that. And then Marcus just like, Dan catches a stray from Marcus where Marcus is like, Dan, you can't throw a 54-yard pass, whatever. And Dan's like, yeah, you're probably right. I probably can't. Like, that's why I'm sitting here and you're there. So then, of course, my wheels start turning. I'm like, well, wait a second. You're on a field right now, Marcus. So like, if you're actually talking this smack and you think you can do this, like, come on. But the behind the scenes of it was just incredible because we're in Bristol, Connecticut. That's where our producer is. They're at Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. We had to then like activate the whole group out there and say, okay, we're going to have to get 2 camera angles for this. So this was going on like the whole show in preparation for what was going to happen. And the whole time I'm thinking, we're going to do all this and he's not going to be able to throw this pass. Like that's insane. If you think about how far that actually is, this is somebody who, I mean, listen, he's obviously an incredible athlete, but he's not like regularly doing that. And not only did he throw it the distance, it was like pinpoint accuracy. I can't get over it. It's the most incredible, like athletic feat. Just everything against you. You got to step up in the moment, make it happen, and boom, sure enough, he did. Every time I watch it back, I notice something funnier. Like even when he got his microphone back and he's just like, talking in the microphone, it was crazy. So much fun though.
I am like you. I've watched it so many times. I'm almost embarrassed to say how many, but each time I find something different. And probably my favorite, like Eureka moment was Dan's reaction when it actually happens is just Yeah,
dark place.
that's not how I wanted this to go at all.
Dan was also convinced. Dan's like, there's no way he can do, like, he's not going to be able to pull this off. There's no way. And then sure enough, like, he does it and just totally dunks on all of us. I mean, the only thing I regret is that we didn't wager something more significant. Like, we didn't really do a bet because we're thinking like he's not gonna be able to do this, but we should have done some sort of wager that would have had Dan have to like dress up as something stupid, or there were opportunities missed there. But next time around, I will not miss those opportunities.
Well, I said this on the NFL Live post, but I need a B&B shirt and I need it yesterday.
Yes.
Like, I will
gotta
wear a
make
hole in that
those.
thing. Yes, has to happen. I mean, that was just,
Good idea.
anyways, absolutely fantastic TV. Well, Laura, thank you so much for carving time out of your day to hang with us and giving your
course.
unique perspective on everything. Please tell our listeners how they can support you and follow you.
Yeah, well, definitely tune in to SEC Nation, or if you're in Jacksonville, come out to the show. We're in the lot somewhere. It'll be easy to find us. We're out there. There'll be a big crowd. You'll see our set. Come out. It's so much fun. We have a lot of special things planned, so we'd love to see you there. And then, yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me, or X, or whatever it's called, Instagram, all those things. I'm on TikTok too, which you get some like different content on TikTok because I don't even know what I'm doing on there. So I'll just put some crazy things up. So yeah, but I'd love to hear from all of you, and just appreciate everybody so much, and appreciate you, Seth.
Oh, well, we're so thankful for you coming on. You were certainly one of the great ambassadors for college football. We're always delighted to have you. Y'all go make sure and support SEC Nation, support Laura. It's just a short jaunt from RV City, and we know you all will need a little bit of exercise after all the consumption over the next 3 or 4 days.
That is
So,
correct.
Laura, it's always great to see you, and enjoy the game this weekend.
Thank you so much.